What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on the SKS podcast. I know I mentioned that I probably wasn't going to be doing anything this week, but I wanted to take kind of a special time, if you will. I was going to say announcement, but not really an announcement, more of a recording time kind of thing to go ahead and do a podcast thing, since it's not really as involved as doing a typical Let's Play or something like that. But I wanted to go over a couple of things. Not only to do with the Christmas break that I'm currently on, but also probably the first part of the new year and stuff like that. So, a couple of things, and I actually am going to, if I have time, take some time and not discuss just channel stuff. It might be like an actual just podcast thing. Who'da thunk it? So let's get the first part out of the way. So I've been off for Christmas break, which has been fun, and my family's been kind of doing some things out of the ordinary this year because of some other scheduling and trips and other things people had planned. So we were doing things a little bit early, which is why I took off the week before. However, unfortunately, there has been, I was informed a few days ago, half a week ago, something like that, there was actually a death in the family. It was my grandmother's brother, so I guess that would make him my great uncle, I believe. I didn't personally know him very well, but my grandparents are going to want to go to the funeral and stuff, and they're up there, they're in their 90s, so, well, my grandfather is. Anyways, but my parents are going to be taking them, and so I'm going to have to keep an eye on my dog, because with his leg, I can't leave him by himself. So, I'm currently off for this week. However, I am going to say keep the expectations loose for the remainder of the year, because we still haven't received word on when they'll be leaving. And so if it happens to not interfere with my recording schedule, then you guys won't see anything happen. It'll be business as usual. But if their trip for the funeral ends up coinciding with when I normally do my recordings, I'm just going to cut it. I'm not going to try and do it ahead of time and all that kind of stuff. So I will let you guys know either through the community page or make a post on the channel or something like that. I don't do too much with Twitter and Facebook and things, and I think my channel is set up to auto retweet and post things on my Facebook page and my Twitter account when I make stuff on my channel. So usually posting onto the community page, or there is the new posting feature that you can do as a content creator. They have a way for you to just make a post. So I'll probably do that and add to the community page if I don't get a chance to do some kind of like video announcement kind of thing like that. But I'll have to play that by ear. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that I'm intending to come back after this week and the week of Christmas. But should scheduling go awry, then I may be off at a indeterminate amount of time. I don't think it will take a real long time. They're not planning on being gone for a long time, but it could impact all that stuff. So bear that in mind, that I may not end up coming back till, I don't know, first of the year or something. It'll just depend on where everything falls, because all the details aren't set yet. So I wanted to give that as a heads up that I'll be off for this week, but it could be longer. So just keep an eye on that stuff. And if you see more videos, great. If you don't, well, then that's probably what's going on. The other thing was, with that in mind, I've been looking at a couple of different game things, and I got the idea of maybe changing up my schedule a little bit. But I know I changed it recently, relatively recent anyways, and I went to pretty much a straight Space Engineers style at the moment, to focus on more of what people were viewing. I was having a lot of series that weren't producing a lot of views and stuff like that, so I wanted to focus on what was working. But there's a couple of things coming out that I wanted to address. So the first one is a game called Ashen. Now, if I'm not feeling lazy, which it's a 50-50 at this point, you may be seeing a trailer or screenshots or something like that of the gameplay. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's been kind of catching quite a bit of buzz lately, so I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, but maybe not know exactly what it is. I'm super interested in this game. I haven't gotten it yet because of the whole Epic Game Store thing that I had to like download and make an account and all that, and I haven't quite squared all that away and figured out exactly if I wanted to. I was originally thinking of waiting till it came to Steam, but the more I looked into it, the more I really don't know how long that's going to be, and I don't know that I want to wait. But Reader's Digest version, for those of you that don't know, Ashen is kind of in the same vein as like Dark Souls. The gameplay is very similar. There's a stamina-based combat system. If you die, you lose all of your currency. Stuff like that. It's a slower, more methodical, realistic kind of combat style in terms of movement and animation and things like that. But the thing that I thought was kind of cool about it, and why I may end up doing a Let's Play on it if everybody wanted to see it, was it isn't quite, at least from the trailers I've seen and the gameplay footage that I've watched, it isn't quite as dark. And I mean that quite literally, both visibly and thematically. It's not quite so dark and grungy, that kind of thing. It's not like all these demon monsters out to try and kill you like Dark Souls is. And while I've played all the Dark Souls games and really like them, I realize that not every single thing that I play in my personal life will be reflected in the channel's demographic, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of people that like space games, they like the lighthearted stuff, they like, and so I thought about doing like a Dark Souls 3 playthrough when it came out because I was super stoked about it, and then I just decided, I don't really know if anybody would really like it because of the viewers that tend to come to my channel are for other reasons than someone like, say, Epic Name Bro or something who got really known for, or who's the other one? I think he goes by something like Peeves or something, that's a big Dark Souls player. They're known for Dark Souls kind of thing. So when something similar comes out, people go to those kinds of channels because they expect people to do that. So I don't really see Dark Souls and stuff like that being associated with the Sleepless Nights channel. Not that I don't like them. I really enjoy them, actually. I've played all of them and had a lot of fun with them. But I don't really know if there'd be any interest in that. But Ashen is a little bit more lighthearted. I mean, it's even a T for teen rating instead of like an M for mature and stuff. And it's not as gory or graphic or anything. I really like the art style, which surprises me because I don't usually get behind the minimal art style. I tend to think of them as looking unfinished or low quality. And something about it just really works. Like, I really dig the art style. I think it has to do with the volumetric lighting and everything. It adds more detail to the simple design. But I mean, you can even tell if you know about it, or if you're seeing footage, if I manage to get off my butt and put something in the video, you can see that like even the characters don't have faces and things like that. It's very minimal, but yet it just really works. It's got a cool aesthetic. So because it was a little bit more lighter, not quite as dark, not quite as matured kind of thing, it's a little bit more fun and adventure looking. I haven't really played it, but I've seen some of the first early stages and stuff like that, and it looks a bit more like, if you like the Dark Souls combat but it was too dark of a game for you kind of thing, this would be like the perfect hybrid. Actually, if I had to put my 2 cents in just based on the visuals and what I've seen, to me it would be if like Ico, Witness, and Dark Souls merged together and became one game. That's what I see. The storyline and the visuals kind of reminds me a bit of Ico, and then the art style of that minimal, somewhat stylized, kind of comic booky, kind of reminds me of Witness, and then the gameplay is straight up Dark Souls kind of thing. And from what I can tell, it's actually really surprising how much they mirrored Dark Souls, but it does not really feel like it's just a straight up ripoff. It's really weird how that works, because it's not very well hidden. It's like it's right out in the open, but it just works for that game. Anyways, so long story short, I will probably end up getting this anyway, because I'm a big Dark Souls fan, so I like the combat and the gameplay, and I really like the art. But I didn't know if there was any interest from you guys in watching a Let's Play of it, because it is a little bit of a left curve out from what I normally do. I tend to stick to more space sandboxy stuff. But, you know, if you go back far enough in my channel, I started with Minecraft, Metal Gear, Skyrim, you know, things like that. But not all of them really lasted a very long time. What really stuck was a lot of sandbox and space stuff. So I realize it's a little bit out of the norm, but if there was an interest because it's new and everybody was interested in it and stuff, or just wanted my take on it or something, because some people have said they'd like to see how I played something, you know, that kind of thing, then I'm definitely on board with it. The only thing is, because I'm still trying to wrap up my book and other things, I'm not looking to add to the schedule. I might for a little while, but it would probably come at the expense of something else, and that kind of segues into my schedule ideas for the first part of next year that I wanted to run by everybody, because it is one of those, like, I'm okay with what I'm doing, but I have ideas to change things, but it usually is an either-or scenario because of my other projects that I'm working on. I don't want to fill up my schedule with a lot of video content at the moment. And so it usually ends up being you either do this or you do that, or a hybrid of both, but you can't just like, well, I've got extra days, so let's just fill that in. So I know I've been doing a lot of Space Engineer things, but I was considering revamping the schedule, but it would come at the expense of a lot of the other series that I've been doing, such as maybe like the Let's Build or the Reverse Engineers or something like that. As always, the Inspiration series is probably safe, and I'm pretty sure the Let's Play will stay where it is. I don't think I have any real reason to change that yet, but it is in the crosshairs, so to speak, a little bit. And here's the reason why. I like the 4 episodes a week model that I've been doing. It's worked really well in balancing giving you guys video content, but also giving me time to work on my other stuff like my book, which is coming along very well, by the way. Little plug in there. I'm working with an artist to, I think we're closing in on the final version of the cover, and I'll probably do a whole separate video on that where I'll go into more details of what the book's about and show you guys the cover when it's all finished and complete. And I personally am probably in my last phase of editing. I think I'm at the point where I don't think I want to go through another round of editing again. So I think after I'm done with this round, I'll probably be done with it. So I'm realistically and optimistically both looking at probably middle of January is probably where my book's going to come out, I think. It's not set in stone yet, but I think that's doable, and I don't think that's unrealistic if I really put time into it. So having said that, I like the 4 episode model that I've been doing. I could maybe squeeze in a 5th if I really just couldn't decide on what to cancel. But the other ideas that I've had is, it's been a while since I've done Subnautica. Now, some of you I know are probably getting excited at the mention of that, because for whatever reason, even though it was vastly different from a lot of my content and it wasn't spacey at all and anything, it was all underwater, Subnautica did very well on my channel. Everybody seemed to really like it. I've even had people that were like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for you to come back with, so it's an option. I realize I never completed the story mode though. Like I stopped my last Let's Play of it before the game came out of early access and had a complete finisher. Now, there is the idea that there's the Arctic Zone DLC stuff that's on its way out, but I haven't been keeping up with it, so I don't know when they're expecting that to release. So if you guys would rather me, like, wait and then do it when that comes out, I could do that. I don't know if that will be a standalone or if it just gives you a new area. I believe, if I understand correctly, now that there's a story mode in the game, you can actually finish the game by completing repairs on a ship or something and leaving the planet. So I'm assuming the DLC will be a different crash, like another, maybe a smaller area or something, but kind of a different... I'm not expecting that to just be like what they did with something like Skyrim, where now you just have a new area to go explore. From what I've read and heard about it, I'm interpreting it as it's going to be a standalone type thing, so I don't think it would affect it. I also thought about doing a hardcore playthrough, just to make things a little more interesting, because I have played the game enough times that I kind of understand the mechanics and things, so maybe to give it a little more spice is kind of rather than focus on base building, focus on the storyline and not dying, and maybe that would give it a little bit of a new feel. So you guys can let me know what you think about that. The other one, now I'm thinking I would wait on this until it actually leaves early access, which would be in February. But the other one I'm thinking about, I thought about doing Empyrean again, but I actually think I would rather do Astroneer over Empyrean, because I haven't done anything on Astroneer for a long time. It was a really big hype game of mine. I was really excited for it, and I had fun with it, but at the time I stopped, I think I just hit a content wall where there just wasn't much else to do, and now they're talking about coming out of early access in February. I don't remember the exact date, but it's sometime early February, I think. So it would coincide with coming back to it, doing a launch, since everybody might be hyped about the launch of the full release kind of thing, that maybe it would be a good time to come back to it. So some of these changes might wait till around February or something, or just add them in little at a time. But as you can kind of see, if I do something like Subnautica, Ashen, and add in Astroneer later, that's 3, and I already said I liked to do kind of the 4 a week. So you can see where my dilemma lies of I've kind of got a little bit of an issue where I wouldn't be too heartbroken over not doing the Let's Build or even the reverse engineers, although that has been a lot of fun and everybody seems to enjoy it. The Let's Play would be a harder one to cut, because I feel like that one's probably gotten the most traction of my newer series that I've been doing. I mean, the inspiration one is always just there. It works well and everybody likes it. So, but when I changed up my schedule, I added a Let's Play for Space Engineers back, a new season. The Let's Build came back and the Reverse Engineers series started. So it's like I added those in, and those have done fairly well. They all kind of float around each other depending on the content and how exciting it was for everybody that episode, that they all kind of float around in different areas. If I had to hazard a guess, I would probably say in order of priority, it would go the Inspiration series, the Let's Play, the Reverse Engineers, and the Let's Build, based on kind of just some of the view numbers I've seen. Maybe the latter two are interchangeable, I'm not sure. So really the question would come down to, I guess the bottom line at the moment would be, would you guys want it to stay the way that it is, or do the Inspiration series, Subnautica, Astroneer, and Ashen? Or something in between, like adding Ashen in and replacing one of the series but leaving the other two, that kind of thing. So I've gotten to where I really like the polls that U2 has in the card system, so check About Now in the corner, and there will probably be a poll for that. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it, like Schedule A, Schedule B, or if I'm going to list all the games, that I haven't quite figured out how I want to do that yet. It may be, I think I'll do 3. You guys can probably see this. This is just me babbling at this point. You probably are already looking at it, but, I think I'll probably do 3, like a stay the schedule the same, completely change it to the way I was talking about, where it's just Inspiration in these other 3, or like replace one, or just add Ashen into it, or something like that. And you can always leave comments and messages and stuff if you want to clarify a bit more of, how you voted or something like that, if it didn't quite fit what you wanted to say. I'm always open to suggestions in any kind of capacity, but I really like the polls because it gives me a very clear, quick indicator. I can just look at it and go, wow, okay, everybody's looking to that. And I'm fine either way. It just kind of seemed like, with the new year and everything, you always kind of look at what, should you make any changes and things. And I have been thinking about changing my intro and stuff and doing something a little different with it, but with my book and everything, I really haven't had time to work on the 3D aspect of it and come up with something new yet. But I'm starting to get the inclination or the rough idea of maybe a new intro animation that I could use or something like that. So maybe if I flesh that out more, then yeah, then in a little while I'll end up switching that up, but I think it'll probably stay the same for a little bit. So yeah, that's my big 2 things, was kind of, I wanted to tell everybody about the break and that the schedule may be a little shaky at the moment until I know more about the family trip situation that's going on. as well as maybe changing up the release content into the next year. And I don't have a definitive, like, when I'm going to make those changes or anything. If it involves Ashen, I might try and do that sooner than later, just because I know that everybody's kind of been excited about it lately. It got really good reviews. I'm really stoked. It pretty much comes down to, am I going to play that on my own or let you guys watch? That's really what it, because I'm going to play it at some point. I don't even think I'll wait for Steam to get it, because it's still TBD on Steam, so I have no idea when they're going to get it. And I was so sad that they did Xbox only. I was like, I would have loved to play that on console, but I don't have an Xbox, so yeah, that didn't work very well. And hopefully within the next few months, I'm saying within the next 6 for optimism's sake, or realism's sake rather, but I'm hoping to upgrade my graphics card in a little while, but I have to save back up because I spent a lot on my new rig when my other computer crashed, so I gotta kind of build up some funds again before I'm one of those that I'd rather buy the bigger one that'll last me a while and then not have to buy them for a while than make a lot of little changes every year or so. But one other thing that I wanted to bring up that I've been playing a lot of, which is kind of in the same vein, I guess, as Ashen. So guess what, people? We're only 20 minutes in, and I'm going to switch into a normal podcast mode where we just get to chit-chat. How about that? All of my podcasts end up being announcements and discussions about my channel, so it's the last time I actually discussed some game stuff and things. It was weird. But speaking of the Dark Souls combat style, I actually got back into, I recently gameflied Darksiders 3, and I have to admit, I actually really enjoyed that a lot more than I expected to, because I wasn't sure how I know the company changed hands and things, because I think the original company, Vigil Games, I think they went out of business or went bankrupt or something. So I believe it's Gunfire Games this time, so I think it was a different developer on this one. So, and it took so long, and nobody was ever sure if it was actually going to come out or not, that I wasn't sure how this one was going to go, but I really liked it. One thing I have to say has always intrigued me about Darksiders: they change their gameplay almost every game, which is really weird for a franchise to do, but it just somehow works for them. And it's not drastically different. It's not like one was a Mario Kart game and one is a Dark Souls game. It's like the first game was a bit more, had the combat akin to more like a God of War, and then the exploration and stuff more like Zelda kind of thing. Like the puzzle exploration was more like Zelda type style. And then the gameplay was more like a God of War type thing. And then the second game still kind of had the moment-to-moment gameplay of kind of like a God of War, but then it had like this full-blown RPG Diablo loot system, which was amazing. I still say second one is probably my favorite because of that. I love RPGs. I love them, and they're my favorite franchise, or favorite genre. I know that sounds weird coming from a guy who 90% of his video content on his channel is usually sandbox games, but I love RPGs. They're in particular, action RPGs. I can deal with turn-based, but I much prefer action-oriented gameplay that then has RPG elements, such as Darksiders 2, Diablo, Skyrim, Witcher, those kinds of games. And Dark Souls is another one. But yeah, I still think 2 is my favorite because it had the loot system and everything. That and Death was a beast, but here nor there. And then 3 kind of turned, so it was like 1 was more of a God of War Zelda hybrid, 2 was kind of this Diablo God of War hybrid, and now the third one is more of a Dark Souls with a little bit of God of War in there. It always had a kind of a God of War feel to it, to the combat, but the third one definitely feels more of a Dark Souls. But what's interesting from a gameplay development standpoint is it's one of the first games since Dark Souls has come out to have a Dark Souls style vibe to it, but it wasn't a stamina-based system. And that's a little bit odd. Like, Dark Souls came out, and then there was like the Surge, Lords of the Fallen, and to a lesser extent Neo. Neo was, that was more of a weird Onimusha Dark Souls hybrid, but it felt a little bit more like Onimusha, actually. But, and I like Neo, don't get me wrong, I said that and it kind of sounded like I was, no, I love Neo. It's like Dark Souls meets Diablo's loot meets Onimusha in the samurai style, and I was like, I love it. I'm super excited about Ghosts of, I'm gonna totally butcher this, Tokushima? Tsukishima? I don't remember the name of it. I know it starts with a T. Anyways, the new Ghost game that's coming out that's like a, it looks kind of like a Tenchu Neo something semi-hybrid. I haven't seen enough of the gameplay really to know how they're doing that one, but that looks so cool. And the Shadows Die Twice game, what is it, Sekiro? I think is anyway, that one I'm super excited for. There's a couple of cool and they're doing a Neo too, which really surprised me. I hadn't heard anything about that, and then E3 just kind of like, boom, here it is. So yeah, I'm totally a samurai nut type of thing. I love all samurai movies, ninja stuff, Naruto, Tenchu games. I love all kinds of ninja stuff and samurai stuff. So as soon as they were like a serious hardcore like samurai RPG type thing, I was like, yes, I'm down. I'm totally down with that. So Ghost looks amazing, and I love the combat, what it looks like. It looks like it's a bit more on the Dark Souls side, where it's not quite so Ninja Gaiden, like let's just go slash crazy. It's more of a 2 or 3 slashes and someone dies, but they're like harder hits kind of thing. I really like that. That looks really cool. So all of those I'm excited for. But, so yeah, when I talk about Neo, I didn't mean that to come off like I didn't like it. I love Neo. Oddly enough, I've never beaten it, which is really weird, but I always get distracted and end up getting pulled into something else. But yeah, Neo, The Surge, there's a couple other ones that came out that were Lords of the Fallen I already mentioned. Those were probably the big 3 ones, but there's been a few that were very Dark Souls-esque. Even the new Ashen game coming out has a stamina-based combat system and stuff like that. But Darksiders has the combat like animation style where things are a little bit slower, you have to time your dodges, things like that, but it doesn't actually have a stamina-based system. So it's almost like a slowed down Devil May Cry. Because Devil May Cry, you had to dodge more than you could block. I don't even think you could block. It used to drive me nuts. I hate games where you can't block. Even if it's like Dark Souls, where if you block too heavy of a hit, it like staggers you. That's fine, but let me block stuff. I hate having... Anyways. So, yeah, Darksiders 3 kind of reminded me a little bit of the Devil May Cry, but like slowed down to a Dark Souls pace. It was interesting. And it was very interesting how it kind of sort of almost made it its own by doing it that way instead of trying to do the stamina based and all that kind of stuff. And there was some gameplay mechanics of it that were really neat, like it has what they call a Nephilim's Respite, which is essentially an Estus flask from Dark Souls, but Dark Souls rarely gave you Estus unless you saved at a bonfire. And there was some items you could get and stuff where if you killed somebody and there was a very small chance of getting an Estus back and stuff like that. But Darksiders 3 has a lot more of that. Like you can actually amp up certain equipment pieces and things to where it actually gives you more of the health lurchers or whatever they're called back. And so it was, like I said, they took elements from things, but they kind of put their own spin on it, which from a game development standpoint was really interesting, and I was kind of intrigued. But I couldn't help, as I was playing it, I couldn't help but sit back and go, man, they have like changed the gameplay for every game. It's really interesting. I don't think a franchise has done that before. Or at least I can't think of one. I can't say, most things have been done at some point, but I can't really think of one that like every single game was significantly different. I mean, there's some games where they change it a little bit, stuff like Prince of Persia, where in the second one now you carry 2 swords and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, Darksiders has actually changed the gameplay a few times to where, one was more of a straight-up action-adventure, the second one was like a full-blown RPG, and the third one went a little less RPG and a little bit back to more of an action with RPG mechanics and things. So it was very interesting how they'd done that. And then I couldn't help but think the last Horseman will be Strife. And if they do a fourth game, which it sounds like they're doing or planning to, then he's primarily a gun wielder, and so that'll change it entirely again. It'll be like I've heard a lot of speculation online that the fourth one would play more like a Devil May Cry, where Dante and them had their revolvers and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that'll mean the third one, or the fourth one's even different, kind of, from the rest of them. So, it's interesting, but that's part of why I wanted to bring it up, because I know that might seem a little left field, because I've never really brought up that franchise before, but I have played all the games, and I find them interesting. And the art style for Darksiders was always really cool. It had that cool, not quite comic book, but not realistic either. It's like that stylized kind of look to it, and so their characters always kind of looked really interesting, especially Death. I think Death looked the most intriguing kind of thing. Now, I will say, from a programming standpoint, Fury's hair in Darksiders 3, I could not get over. Not in like a weird way, it was more just like from my programming background, I was like, how did they do that? Like, does her hair have its own physics? That's weird. It was really cool. Like, if you used one of the hollow powers and like jumped or something or were attacking, her hair would stand up like a Super Saiyan kind of thing. And it would just kind of float around. It almost reminded me of the effect from, what was it? Pirates of the Caribbean, the last one, Dead Men Tell No Tales, where Salazar has that kind of, and all of his guys have that weird low gravity kind of effect to them, where everything just kind of waves around like they're underwater. It reminded me of that. It was really kind of interesting. But I know I mentioned it, it might have been the last podcast, or it was the last Space Engineers episode. I can't remember, but I mentioned being in a super mystical magic mode ever since I saw the last Fantastic Beasts movie, and that really hasn't worn off. I'm still playing Skyrim. I have, when Diablo 3 came out on Switch, I got that, which is awesome. If you're a Diablo fan, Diablo on Switch, oh, it's so good. I love the Necromancer. I think he's completely broken, and I don't want them to change him at all, because he's ridiculously OP, and I love it. And I do realize I have probably jumped more game franchises in the past 10-20 minutes of talking on this podcast than I probably have in most of my YouTube content, so I apologize if anyone is getting franchise jumping whiplash. But, like I said, I don't normally babble this much. I'm usually like doing all channel announcements and things, so this is a bit more of the just gamer nerd side coming out a bit. But yeah, I've still been playing Skyrim and Diablo, and I went back and started playing Dragon Age Inquisition again, because they announced the new Dragon Age thing, which I'm hoping is not some weird mobile card game or something, and that they're legit doing like an Inquisition 2 or something, like a full-fledged game, just because there hasn't been one in a while. And I'm hoping that EA takes their grubby little mitts off of it and lets BioWare do their thing, because I liked Inquisition a lot, but I got quite the burn mark from hearing the ending was a little lackluster, to say the least. And then I read up on some of the DLC, and basically everyone said that the last DLC, and I don't want any spoilers, I've never played it before, I'm going to play it at some point before the new one comes out, but I know it has something to do with Solus, and that some people have said that he's somehow like the actual big bad guy, and I'm really disappointed that got spoiled for me already, but I don't want to know anymore. But when I read about that, though, I was like, so the actual cool plot twist ending is behind a paywall of DLC, and I'm like, yeah, that's so totally EA. That's like their call sign almost, or their signature move is cut the game off 3/4 of the way through and finish the rest behind a paywall. And so the marketing and the business model of Inquisition gave me a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth kind of thing. But I've always liked the Dragon Age world, like the the setup and the universe. I've always thought it was cool. I do think Origins was the coolest in terms of world building. It felt very unique, but still very Lord of the Rings. 2, I don't know, 2 felt a bit odd, like it was almost from a different universe. It didn't feel like it was part of the Dragon Age saga. It felt a little odd. Part of that was like, Flemeth shows back up and she looks completely different than the first game and is in like battle armor and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, huh? Like the art style seemed to change, kind of thing, which felt a bit odd. And Inquisition was really cool, but once again, it didn't feel very Dragon Age-y. There wasn't much. Again, I didn't play much of the DLC, and I'll probably end up, finding a sale or something where they have like the whole set type of thing, like a bundle type of thing, and maybe go back and play that. And actually play some of the DLC, because I heard one of the other DLCs actually took you to the Deep Roads or something, where you did deal with Darkspawn, but Inquisition had like nothing to do with Darkspawn that much, and the first game kind of set it up as if the Grey Wardens and the Darkspawn was like the main thing, and then the second one really didn't have much to do with it, and then the Inquisition didn't really have much to do with it, and I was like, so was that just a one-off, or... and I know there was still implications as far as, I know, if I remember correctly, the villain of Inquisition was like one of the bad guy wizard people from the second one. So, I mean, I realized that there were some things that threaded the things together, and I know Hawk's in Inquisition and stuff like that, but it just, I expected after the first game that then the second one would be like centuries later and now there's a new blight. That kind of setup where almost like a Dark Souls, where it's a new era and a new thing, but it's kind of the same idea. And because 2 was so different and Inquisition was even more different, it was kind of like, are these all part of the same franchise? Or because they really didn't feel as much like they had anything to do with each other, with the exception of the main villain of Inquisition kind of being part of the DLC from 2 that I never played that either. Stuff like that. So, but it was the thing that they did with the hashtag that made me nervous, like hashtag what was it? I want to say Dire Wolf, and I know that wasn't it. It was like the Dark Wolf Rises or something. I know that's not it, so you can correct me if you want, but I'm fully aware that that's not accurate. Dreadwolf? Maybe it was the Dreadwolf. Dreadwolf Rises? Something like that. And I was like, don't tell me they're doing something where that's actually going to be the title, and then it's like, like I said, it's some kind of side spin-off card game or some mobile game or something. It's like, it's been long enough. Do like a legit... Now, again, no spoilers, please, but if the DLC with Solus is accurate and he really is like the main villain that started everything in Inquisition, but you don't stop him, then I could see that being a lead into a Dragon Age 4, like a full-fledged where now you're going after him or something. But it was just one of those, whenever they do things that aren't 1, 2, 3, 4 and they add subtitles to them like that, it makes me nervous, because a lot of times that's a spin-off, It's like well, that's not really a good example. I was going to use Assassin's Creed, but when they went to Brotherhood and stuff, it really wasn't a, like, side story spin-off. It just wasn't a new era, like you were still playing as Ezio. So, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, that oftentimes you'll get these 1, 2, 3, and then, trials, or something like that, and you're like, huh? I guess one example you could use is Elder Scrolls, that they did Arena and Daggerfall and then Morrowind and Skyrim, and they were all like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there was like Legends, where it wasn't a numerical entry, but then it was just like this spin-off card game kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really hoping that it's been long enough. I think Inquisition came out a while ago, that I'm hoping that they've taken some time, really dug into the feedback and stuff, and decided, okay, let's really do a good one, and they're gonna actually do like a 4, like a main entry, is what I'm hoping. But so yeah, with the announcement of that and everything, I've just been super medieval fantasy or sorcery kind of gaming, like everything's been, I even gameflied Just Cause 4 because that looked fun, and I don't think I've played it because I just wasn't in the mood. I was like, I'm in the mood for Darksiders and Diablo and Skyrim, and so it's probably on top of all that is why when Ashen came out, I was like, ooh, this looks cool. So that could have had something to do with it. I mean, I saw it a while back when they first announced it. I actually forgot all about it, but when they first announced it, I did see it, and I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool, but I forgot all about it until it was like just this out of nowhere, and now it was like released. And all the media outlets I was reading up on kept referencing it as like this surprise release kind of thing, like nobody really expected it to come out, nobody had heard anything about the release date, and then it was like, by the way, it's out. And it's like, oh, okay. So, there's all that kind of stuff going on. But, and also, since we're discussing schedules and things too, you guys can let me know too if you're, interested in more of this kind of talk stuff where I never really think about anybody probably holding my opinion too high. So I can't really, not really sure if anybody would really want to listen to me jabberwocky and talk all the time. No, that's not where you're supposed to use that. Trying to think of a, I'm trying to think of one of those phrases, chit chat, jabberjaw, whatever. That's what I was thinking. I said jabberwocky, I meant jabberjaw. Anyways, I'm sure you can read between the lines, but, if you guys would like to hear more just random crazy thoughts that come into my head about gaming and all that kind of stuff, I'll try and do more podcasts like this and stuff like that where I'm not always talking about the channel production stuff and just more what's going on and releases and things I'm interested in. I've actually thought about doing reviews for a while, but like I said, I didn't really know if anybody would be that interested in my take on things or not. But I will say that I tend to review stuff in my head as I play things, partially because of my programming background, that there's a lot of times where when there's bugs and things and stuff like that, I can kind of see what happened or what they were trying to do or something like that. One thing I will say about Darksiders 3, I played on console on PS4. I was not really impressed with the performance of it. It had a lot of frame rate issues and loading lag. That the other two didn't have. And I don't know if that's something that they'll eventually patch later. I'm sure at some point they probably will. And I don't know how it ran on PC for everybody. Sometimes PC runs a little better than console because a lot of PC gamers have better rigs and stuff than what the consoles can do. So it's usually more stressful on consoles than what gaming computers can handle. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that's a console issue, but I did run into a surprising, like a notable amount of frame rate issues where like it would have been, if it was going to be a 10, it wasn't, but if it was, then I would have had to have not given it that just because of some of the performance issues that it had. I'm also really interested, again, I won't spoil anything for anybody that is a fan of the game franchise and maybe currently playing it or something or intends to, but I read up on, I guess there's 2 DLC planned for it, and the way the game ended, I'm actually really curious to see how they handle the DLC part, because that'll be kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm definitely in that mode. It was like the definitive. And I thought for the longest time it was Deathfinitive, like with an F. And it was only recently when I actually went to look it up that I realized it was Deathinitive for the second game, the Deathinitive edition. And I am amazed that I've said that 3 times and not messed it up. I'm blown away. But yeah, that was a PlayStation Plus game last year, I think, about this time, where they released that one for free. So that's something that now that I've beaten 3, I'm going back and re-downloading 2, because I didn't play the DLC for 2, but now because I got the definitive for free. It sounds like I have a lisp, by the way. That word just, you can't say it with a straight face and not feel like you're getting, it's the definitive edition, it sounds like you have a lisp or something. I don't know. I think it's funny. But yeah, so I'm definitely in like a medieval magic fantasy mode at the moment, because literally everything I've been playing, with the exception of what I've had to play for the channel stuff like Space Engineers, has been some kind of magic-based fantasy, medieval fantasy, something like that. And even my shows, when I'm not playing games and I'm watching, I went back on Netflix and I've been binge watching Naruto and stuff like that. I just finished Fairy Tail, and one of my favorite animes ever, and I'm so psyched that they're doing the final season. Unfortunately, I caught up to them faster than I expected to, and now I'm back to watching an episode a week when they come out, and it's killing me. And I haven't seen the last one, but it's really funny, because when I first started watching that show, I did not expect it to be my favorite. I thought it was a little too lighthearted and too goofy for me. I liked Bleach and Naruto, and even they were kind of pushing it, but like Gundam, particularly Gundam Wing, was one of my all-time favorite animes and stuff like that. And so when I started watching Fairy Tail, I was like, yeah, it seems like it's fun and it's cool. I love the world building and how it's basically like, it's like Japanese Harry Potter, which is hysterical to me, because it's like, instead of using wands and things, they just have rune symbols show up and they just turn into Dragon Ball. It's like, yeah, this is like the most beast mages have ever been, Whenever you say wizard, you don't think of people as beast as Natsu, kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of cool, but yeah, so it's funny though, because I really didn't expect it to become one of my favorites, and out of all the animes that I've gone back and from start to finish binged all the way through multiple times, that's the only one that I've done like 3 or 4 times that I've watched the entire show. Most of the time, I even think Naruto, I watched it all the way once, and now I'm just now going back, because they're almost done dubbing the Shippuden series, and I'm just now going back and watching all of those. And Bleach was similar. It was only recently that I went back and went back through that one, because they finished dubbing it again. But Fairy Tail, I've probably watched through 3 or 4 times already. It's always like my go-to anime. And I really enjoyed One Piece. I didn't think I would. It took me a while to get into it, but somewhere around the Alabasta arc, I really started getting into it, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Got caught up with the dubs, and then realized that they are like 300 some episodes behind the subtitled ones, and I was like, what in the world is taking you guys so long? Because I don't mind doing subs if they tell you that, we're not dubbing this anymore, like it's done. Then I'll watch the subs just to finish the show. But if I can help it, I'm just lazy. I don't like reading. I'm like, I know. Before anybody says anything, yes, the guy who's writing a book doesn't really care for yeah, I get the irony. It's not lost on me. But when I sit down and watch a show, I don't like paying attention to having to read. So, that, and particularly Fairy Tail. There's some shows I could take it or leave it, but Fairy Tail, it's just not the same without the English voice actors to me. Some people, and it's to each their own. It's whatever you want to do. And some people are like, the more subtitle is the pure way to go, and the dubs are terrible, and other people are vice versa. For me, I'm kind of like, it depends. I've seen some where I'm like, yeah, I could watch the subtitle ones, and they're probably a little better, but I just don't like reading them, so the dub's passable. Dragon Ball, I refuse. Goku drives me nuts in the subtitles. It's like ear-bleeding bad to me. I'm like, I mean, in the dubs, you have Sean Schemmel that does Goku with his iconic voice. And the subtitles, it's like listening to a 5-year-old scream. I can't do it. I'm like, no. So that's one that I refuse. I think Naruto I could take or leave. I don't think anybody really has a distinct voice enough. Maybe Kakashi. I always like Kakashi's voice, but I don't think it really hurt. I used to watch the subtitle ones before they started dubbing them, but Fairy Tail, they just have too many iconic English voice actors to me that I can't watch that one subbed. It's just, it loses something for me. But anywho, I'm getting carried away now because I'm looking at my stopwatch and I went over what I planned on and I'm just kind of rambling. So I'm going to wrap things up here. I would appreciate you guys' feedback on the schedule stuff and how you would prefer what series you'd rather see. And I will ask that, you bear with me and keep in mind stuff, as my schedule is a little bit flexible at the moment until I figure out exactly what's going on and when I'll definitively be back for more episodes and things. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me. But with that said, I'm going to retreat back into my Christmas vacation / possible extended vacation, depending on what all goes on with the family. But I'm going to skedaddle and leave you guys to it. Hope you guys have an awesome Christmas, and I will see you guys at some point when everything's back and squared away and my schedule comes back to where I can come back for more episodes. So with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Be sure to cast your vote on the poll or in the comments as to what kind of schedule you'd like to see when we come back, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.